Hello, 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 and welcome to Bleav. That's Bleav in Lions right here on the Bleav Podcast Network. And we have a very special episode thanks to a crossover with the Bleav in Seahawks podcast. So, I am joined by a star linebacker out of the linebacker university down at USC, three-time Pro Bowler for the Seattle Seahawks, the all-pro linebacker with 549 career tackles, and the co-founder of Zone In CBD in 1937 Farms. It's Lofa Tatupu. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, brother. Part of the Bleav family, man. It's an honor to meet you.
Such a pleasure to have you here. So, aside from Bleav in Seahawks and your two businesses, what else are you doing in the post-football career?
I'm watching a lot of football now. As you know, you get to talk about it every day or every week on the Bleav Podcast Network. So, super grateful for that. But got a beautiful wife and two boys, 7 and 10, Kai and Kane, and trying to figure out what sport they're going to be, getting into. And so football, not quite yet, but we got them in basketball and baseball, so it's a good start.
Well, Seattle, a lot of athletics there to speak
Yeah,
of, and with
yeah.
hopefully they get an NBA team back sometime soon.
Oh yeah, fingers crossed. But there's a lot of great, athletes that come from this area. A lot of basketball players, Jamal Crawford, Nate Robb. There's a ton of them, and then some baseball players and football as well.
Great city to be in. And if you're going to be betting on the Seahawks this weekend, make sure you use betonline.ag. They are back and better than ever. A new web interface for the rest of the NBA season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So, head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV50 to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV50. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. And when this game starts, no one's competing for the playoffs anymore.
Oh, I know, brutal, right?
It really is. And so my co-host Jerry Ball, he's talked about playing for pride and what that means. His definition is kind of, for a young player, it's to prove I deserve to be here. For an older veteran, it's I'm auditioning elsewhere. Is that how you would describe it?
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, definitely. You got to showcase what you can do as a young guy because, the crazy part is you might be auditioning for other teams too because the new regime might not want you. That's the craziest part. And then as an older guy, you want to prove that you still got it, and you hope if you've been there a long time, that the new regime is still they're ready to rebuild with you in mind. But it just you never know, and so like it's a what have you done for me lately league. So everybody's auditioning, week in and week out.
It really is what have you done for me lately? But for your credit, you lasted through three different regimes. You were drafted by the Holmgren, you were with the Mora era, and then with Pete Carroll's first year with Seattle too.
Yeah, man. Like I said, you're always trying to showcase your talents, and you know, I did as best I could, and yeah, the turnover is really crazy, especially because you'll have with the new coaches. It's not just that they have players that they want, but they have coaches that they like to coach with that they've coached because they've come up through the ranks with each other, whether in college and NFL, and so now when they get a head job. They'll start to bring some of the guys that they're familiar with and the schemes that they like to run. So it was a lot of learning over those 3 years. But luckily with the last one, which was crazy, Pete, my college coach, right? he brought in a whole new defense that we didn't even run down at SC. And
Oh,
so,
really? He changed things up.
oh man, it was wild. I was just like, yo, what are we doing here? It was the scheme I think that he had with the 2007 and 2008 defense at SC, which were two of the most prolific defenses in all of college football history. They're up there with the Alabama of the 2012 or 13, whenever they had their run, and I'm talking like 7 points per game. And it's a good scheme if you have the personnel, but I'm not so sure we have the personnel. And so, that might, I was trying to play the role of Ray Malaluga, who's like 6'2", 6'3", 260, and can run. I'm 5'11", 235, 240. So it was an adjustment. We started off hot, but probably should have pivoted to the over front, the 4-3 defense that we were used to running when we were in the top 5 defense down in Southern Cal.
Well, and so is that kind of the same defense that they're still running right now in Seattle, the cover 3?
They still run, a lot of the cover 3 principles and everything like that, but it's out of a different front. And so you see a lot more bigger guys in there. And that's why, Bobby and even Jordan, I predicted a career year for Bobby in tackles, which is, it's hard to predict that when he had 165 or 167.
For such a star.
Yeah, he's had like over 150 like 3 or 4 times, in his career. But I saw the way the season ended. When we got Carlos Dunlap before the trade deadline last year, it really we put KJ Wright, out there. It kind of looked like he was playing, edge, defensive end, but he was stand up. He was our Sam Backer now. They moved Brooks, the new guy, right there behind the line of scrimmage with Bobby. And so I just saw that, there was going to be a lot of opportunities to make tackles. But I think from a coverage standpoint, where we've kind of struggled is not having that piece in KJ Wright. And I think, him just even alerting Brooks or telling Bobby what he sees, there's been a lot of communication that's lost there. And, it's really tough when you lose a player like KJ Wright.
Yeah, he really was a face of the franchise there. And it's kind of the last remaining members of that legendary Seahawks run. It's Wilson and it's Bobby Wagner in the middle.
Wilson and Wagner, man. And it's, it's crazy, right? Because I know the Super Bowl was 6, 7 years ago now, 13, 8. But, it was a special group, and especially with the Legion of Boom and then that defensive front that they had. It was incredible. It was an embarrassment of riches, and that were brought through some great drafts with John Schneider and Pete, and they really hit on it. And then, but the hard part is, this is only one bad year, and I think everyone's getting a little carried away with how it's going because there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, we want to see big changes." And I mean, just last year we were 12-4, and so we had some unfortunate luck with injury. Both to Jamal, both to Wilson. And then, Chris Carson, a lot of people are saying, hey, why is Russell, if he's so great, why is he playing like this? He doesn't have a run game. And, it's like, only the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks really has Rashad Penny gotten going. And he's been hurt every year but this year. So it's been tough sledding. I mean, no pun intended because we were in the snow last week, but they're still competitive, and Pete hasn't lost this team. You see a lot of other teams that are struggling. They're getting blown out, like by 20 points, 30, 3, 4 possessions. That's where you start to worry. And so I really don't believe in this whole blow it up, start over. I'd like to see them give it one more run next year.
Well, and so to touch on what you talked about on not giving up, a lot of people credit Dan Campbell and the way he's coaching this Lions team to have those players playing for him. But when it comes to the Seahawks, everyone's still playing for it. But how do you fix it? Is it a matter of just getting healthy and having a good draft and free agency? What's the solution from this missing the playoff year?
Yeah, there's a couple pieces missing. I think really schematically, defensively, we get up a lot of yards, but we're still, I think, 4th or 5th in scoring. And so, a lot of the times when I get asked about that, I don't care how many yards we give up. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're a defensive player, you should care. No, I want turnovers and I want no points going on the board. And if you're in the top 5, you have a fighting chance every week. And that's why we've lost probably of the 10 games, seven or eight have come down like the final possession in which we had a chance to win it. And I mean, it was very similar to a season that I had my fourth year, 2008 home runs last year. It was, man, we'd go down, miss the field goal, we'd fumble on offense, defense would, okay, you got to hold them to three. We would give up seven. It was just unfortunate, and it was a matter of not finishing. And that's something that's actually kind of curious as to Pete Carroll. If you go back to all his college teams and all his NFL teams, they've been excellent at finish. I think his record in December, this is probably the first time he's had, multiple losses in December. And, so it's uncharted territory, not just for him, but for the franchise. And, but I think, yeah, there's definitely some pieces they need to get. But I also think that, a clear understanding of who they are identity-wise is really what's lacking. I don't see any commitment to the run game. Rashad Penny had 150 yards last week on 17 carries. He averaged 8 yards a carry. We just stopped running the ball. So that's how you lose a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter is you give them opportunities on the other side. And defensively, we were on the field for 69 plays. I want to say it was almost 2-1. I think they had 38 minutes of time possession. We had 22. So it's like we're not doing ourselves any favors. And then, of course, you're on the 8-yard line. The last thing the Seahawks fans want to see is a drop back pass. I'm just saying.
A little traumatized.
Man, run the ball and kick the field goal, and now you go up, 2 possessions with 5 and some change left. And if Nick Foles brings them back and scores 2 in 5 minutes when he hasn't done that all game, that go ahead. You earned your win. So that was I was very shocked. It felt like we were just waiting to win that game, and we let it slip out of our fingers.
And it's kind of felt like that a lot this year in Seattle. And I've kind of started to wonder. Seahawks had that great 3 to 4 year run. It's come down a little bit since, and they've still been competitive, but just 2 division wins in 7 years. It's kind of like when you were with the Seahawks, you had that elite 3 to 4 year run after with the Super Bowl run in there, but then Matt Hasselbeck gets hurt, then Sean Alexander leaves. So is that really all we can hope for, is that 3 to 4 year kind of run?
It's tough to keep things together. And I mean, for one, yeah, you need a franchise quarterback, right? And you need a coach that has a clear plan. For all the yards that Matthew threw for, and he was a phenomenal quarterback, we always had a number 1 or number 2 rush offense. And that's because we have Walter Jones, Hutchinson, Tobeck, Chris Gray, and Sean Locklear. And, as guys get older, it's like, okay, this is where we need to keep investing in. And it's been wild to me, a lot of organizations, how they undervalue the guys up front when, I can find anybody to, I'm not going to say anybody, but, I did play the position, so I will say anybody. I can find anybody to go make a tackle. Let's go pay the guys up front. So there's a clear path to the ball. I can find anybody to run the ball. Let's pay the guys up front to pave a way for a lane. And that's the thing I find wild, that, a lot of people, they get enamored with investing money in the receivers. And when this team was winning all those games, 2 of their starting receivers were undrafted free agents. Baldwin, one of the best in franchise history, and Jermaine Kearse. And I mean, like the thing was, back when they came up, they were undrafted free. They were on the field. They were on the field blocking kicks, laying people out on special teams. And there was just a different, era of, I want to say, toughness that whole team embodied. And so it's not that we don't have tough players, but we're not playing like it, is what I want to say. And so it's and I think it's probably because the new guys on the team, they don't remember tough times. They don't remember going 7-9. Yeah, we won the division, but it's, everybody's laughing at us saying, oh, well, first loser to, make the playoffs. Luckily, we showed who we are. We beat the reigning champs, the Saints, with the Beastquake. But again, that's how we got there. Marshawn Lynch and a strong defense. And then, by the grace of God, we found Russell Wilson in the 3rd round. It's a lot was, the defense and the run game back then, and then it transitioned over. Now it's a lot on Russell. There's a lot of pressure on Russell to go out there and put up 30 every game, because as that defense aged and guys retired or got injured, which is part of the game, it's hard to keep it together, man. It's like you look at the decade we have, we're blessed, and then you look at the only other team I know, New England and maybe Green Bay, I guess you could put up there. But before that, Peyton Manning, I guess, and the Colts. There's not many that withstand a decade or two of success.
You really never have teams that do it for that long without a down year, right?
Look at Pittsburgh.
Exactly. They're kind of in their downslope right now, but we're not firing Mike Tomlin. That's not happening.
I mean, a couple of years ago, Mike Tomlin's great. I can't believe I forgot him. He's great. And I think they missed the playoffs for a year or two, came back and won the division with like 11 or 12 wins. So that's a tough division every year. So it's there's a number of things that have to go right on top of drafting well, but staying healthy. And I think John and Pete have taken some criticism that like drafts haven't panned out, but Darrell Taylor missed his whole rookie year. Collier missed almost all of his rookie year. Rashad Penny's missed 3 of his first years, right? I think this is his 3rd or 4th year. He's missed like 2 or 3 of them. So like we have Darrell Taylor's going to be a phenomenal player, and
yes, he is,
man. And it's just that they're not staying healthy. And then we get Jamal. You could pretty much call him 2 draft picks. We give him 2 first for him. He's had 2 shoulders. He played through one. Then this year you got it refit. He got it fixed, and then it happened again, same shoulder. So it's just, man, if you can stay healthy, it really helps out, man.
Well, with Jordan Brooks on that linebacking core too, he's a star in the making. They have a lot of pieces. It's just putting them together in this puzzle. And so I think that means you believe that Carroll's back, Schneider's back, and Russell Wilson is back?
I believe it. But if there is, because the rumors that we heard, last year, which I thought were largely overblown, but then you look at the year we've had, injury notwithstanding, when Russell's camp, his camp puts out there, hey, we got some trade destinations. It's like, wait a minute. Wait, do you really not want to be here? And I don't know if that's the case, but that's why I always wish Russell would have just came out and said something rather than like his camp talking for him, because, Russell's a big boy. He can figure it out. And if he wants to go somewhere else, I get it. But I don't think it should be a him or me or them or me type deal, because I don't know too many that can just come in and right the ship as it is. I trust the guys that took us there, John, Pete, Russ, all together. I think if they just get down and talk in the offseason, as soon as the season's over, I think they can figure it out. And I mean, that's just how it has to be. If the 3 are going to go forward together, they have to be together.
They can't be operating in separate silos, is something that Jerry Ball likes to talk about all the time. It's one cohesive vision.
As soon as we talked to, Lee Steinberger, we had him on our show, the great agent. And he said, when you pay a quarterback that kind of money, he is now a partner of the head coach and the GM. And so I think that might have been the frustration and maybe some of the offseason moves or whatever, like what Russ and his camp were saying. But, for what, like it or don't, or you like it or not, he is a partner now in, and if we're going forward, I think he's got 1 or 2 left on his deal, no trade clause, but I'm sure he'd waive it for, a destination of his choosing. And if that's, I don't really, if people want to go back to 3 and 4 wins, which we've only had, I think, even since Holmgren's era, like once, I think, maybe, this is the other one, 5 and whatever we finish up at. If you want to go back to 3 and 4 wins, how it was before Holmgren, I mean, just get ready. If you're wishing for, restarting and blowing this operation up.
That's the thing. I don't get the choosing one or the other. I really don't get choosing neither and moving on from both, which some people want.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah. It's hard enough to find a franchise quarterback. It's harder to find a Super Bowl winning coach and GM. And so, my whole thing is like, hey, fellas, let's figure it out. And then let's move forward together, because I mean, I think Pete still he's signed through 2025, and I think the only one that's not signed through 2025 is Russ. I think, and so it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But I really not a fan of blowing up the operation.
Especially when there is so much talent. You have Tyler Lockett, you have DK Metcalf. There's talent here. And obviously you trust Pete Carroll because you've had that relationship all the way back at USC when you're playing linebacker, you for him and Kem Norton Jr., then through the NFL in Pete's first season, and then coaching with him as
Mm.
well in Seattle. So what's that been like seeing the evolutions of Pete Carroll throughout his career and yours?
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. We did had a lot of winning at SC with 26 games. We were 25-1 with 2 national titles, and then even coming here, it was a losing season. But even when we're losing, we win. So we went to the went to the playoffs. We won the division, and it was fun. And it's just Pete's a great motivator, and he's a great coach. And I think right now the only thing that's missing is the guys we have talent, but I think the message being carried throughout the team is the only thing missing. And it's not that we don't have leaders. Bobby and Russ are 2 of the best leaders I've seen, but it's getting the younger guys to understand their roles on the team, and like it's a fine line. And as Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Brandon Meebane, those weren't just amazing players. Those were amazing leaders. Offense, Doug, Curse, Marshawn, the lineman up front, man, it goes on. Like it was everybody that understood their role in the team, and they worked together. I mean, it's so as it gets hard to, it's almost like I liken it to like the Patriot way that Belichick uses, right?
Yeah.
That model or that philosophy and that message is understood from the moment a young guy walks in. And so I just don't know if that's the way Pete and his ethos is, his philosophy is competition and best man for the job. So I don't know if that's getting lost in translation. And I think because I do see it, you can't stay this close in every game without talent. And then finishing, that's just I think that's something mentally that has to be transferred. That's where I think we're lacking. It's just the ability to focus, the ability to zone in and just get it done.
And do you think that might be because of the drama around Russ this offseason, or do you think it's independent of one another? It's just something that happens to teams.
This is something that I've always the toughest part, especially even when I was coaching, for Pete. The hardest thing was that he's very positive, and he wants the energy and all the energy, and we got to keep running, we got to go hard. Well, the guys are going to play hard. We need them to play smart, and I'm not saying that he taught them not to play smart or tolerated it even, but it was always a question of why are we getting these untimely penalties? Well, first of all, it was never a good time for penalties. But so this is kind of the difference between playing for Mike Holmgren and playing for Pete Carroll. Was Mike Holmgren, I don't care how good you are, if you are continually getting penalties, you're not going to play. And eventually you're going to be on another team. And so it's we've had guys that just, continually get penalties. It's like, okay, but we're not doing anything about it. So it is like we were tolerating it. And we were always baffled. It's like, well, how can we unteach it to him? And I was like, yeah, you got to set him. And I think I was really proud when Pete sat Jordan Brooks. He had a late hit. I love Jordan's aggression, but he had a hit that was like 5 yards out of bounds. And if it was inbounds, beautiful hit, but it was 5 yards out. There was another 15 on a 15 yards. So 30 yards has just been given up. And he said, hey, hit the bench. And I was like, hey, now that is something I've never seen out of Pete. I've seen him talk to guys, hey, because he, like I said, he teaches and he coaches from such a positive place. He wants guys to be at their best and not ever doubting themselves. That's fine. But, you still have to have discipline if you want to win.
Edgy Pete Carroll is something that I kind of like the sounds of.
Right.
Willing to get his guys in line. And back to Mike Holmgren for a second, though. Talk about that team with Holmgren, with those Hall of Fame offensive linemen on the other side in practice with Hutchinson and Jones. What was that like in tackling Sean Alexander? I mean, practice must have been hell for you.
Oh, it was. I mean, if you can get by that, all pro offensive line, then you have to get by Max Strong, 14, 15-year veteran, absolute beast, and then you get to tackle the MVP if you're in position to do it. So, but yeah, Hasselbeck, Bobby Ingram, Daryl Jackson, Joe Vicious. I mean, we were stacked, and
Yeah.
it was incredible, right? And so, but that made us better. And as a defense, we were a scrappy bunch, man. I like to think that we brought that attitude and that nasty that the eventual Legion of Boom fed off of, right? The ball hawking. We were always up there in turnovers. We got, I think we led the league in sacks 2 out of the 4 years with Holmgren. And it was very opportunistic team. We gave up yards just like this defense, but we were always up there in scoring defense. So just don't let them score. But it was just fun times, man. It was some of the most fun football that I ever got to play, and great group of guys, my brothers. Still cherish it to this day. And then it was awesome playing for Mike. It was demanding. It was hard, just like all the stories you hear. And he's an imposing figure. He's like 6'6", and so you're a middle linebacker. You're supposed to be one of the baddest dudes, and then you're getting reamed out by a guy that you got to look that's like 6 inches taller than you. It's like, okay, coach.
Little intimidating there.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's hard to look tough when you're 6 inches shorter than the dude, So I'm just kidding,
Especially, he's got the iconic mustache and everything too.
Oh yeah,
just terrifying sight. And another imposing coach is Dan Campbell for the Detroit Lions, former player. And we've talked about this with Jerry Ball about how there's so many former players coaching on this team. Antoine Randall L., the former Steelers receiver, he's the receivers coach, bunch of other players. So is that an advantage to have someone who knows the game on field, or does it really matter and there's different ways to skin a ham?
Yeah, I mean, Pete's had several players coach for him. Me, Ken Norton, Ricky Manning Jr., Nick Sorensen, Chad Morton. Like, so there is definitely advantage, because there's guys that have been in those seats and seeing it from their perspective, and like because I've had coaches that have never played. That was some of the best coaches I ever had. I was a coaches that never played that were very hard to work with, because when you're explaining what you saw out there, your perspective, because from the film, okay, coach, if I saw it from this angle, I would have made a different choice. But I saw it from 6 feet, on the field, and 4 yards in front of me. And so when there's a lot that just they didn't want to hear it, and it's tough because it's like, well, we can't even have an open dialogue about how I'm supposed to get this done, because you need to tell me how to see it faster, and you're just telling me that I messed up. I know I messed up. So I think that perspective from, that's what I always tried to bring when I was lucky to coach, assistant linebacker coach with the Hawks with Bobby and KJ, is just, I would ask them, hey, so what made you choose that route? Or, what did you see? And so I feel like, progressively got better, but, so I don't know if it's definitely an advantage, because there's some of the best players that ever played that really not the best teachers of the game, so it could go either way, really. I hate to give a yes, no answer on that one. It depends on, how the players, are they relating to them? Are they really learning and extracting information from them? Or is it just, well, this is what I used to do. And, well, hey, these players aren't you. So you can't treat them as such. You can't just assume that they see it the way you do, is what it comes down to. So.
Exactly. People are different, and you can't just expect a carbon copy of you as a player. And it's hurt a lot of coaches throughout their careers when that kind of thing happens. As for the Lions, they have Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator who played as a corner for years in the NFL, Aubrey Pleasant, the DB coach. And early in the season, it was week 1, there's a screaming match between Jeff Okudah and Aubrey Pleasant. But the players come out and say, no, 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 that's just their relationship. They can do that, but he wouldn't talk that way to someone who doesn't respond that way. So it's,
yeah. Well, that's a lot of things. You don't understand their relationship. And everyone gets motivated or they need different, yeah, exactly. Like it's I did see that replay and then but they didn't show him hug him after a series later. And
of
then him,
course not. Why would they show that?
yeah, typical, right? But and so I mean, yeah, there's some guys you have to get after, like, and then because that's how they respond. And then now they're like, okay, I'm in game mode. I'm ready, But and before that, they're probably just sleepwalking through the game. Like, oh, we're at a game, and they're just super talented, but they're not like ready to hit the switch. So I get it. It happens.
Yeah, you coach a player like Jared Goff different than you coach DeAndre Swift, different than you coach our all-pro in the making Penei Sewell out on tackle too. What do you think about this Lions team going forward? Is there anything you've seen that gives them a chance to really build into something special?
I haven't got to watch a ton of them. I'm excited about what I do. I like Goff. I really couldn't believe that Stafford, like that Sean McVay gave up on Goff for Stafford. And like, no offense on your boy Stafford, but 0-3 in the playoffs. I mean, I think Goff might have more playoff wins in one playoff. So
he does.
It's tough. Like I don't understand that, and that's one of those grass is always greener. But Goff, he gave us hell every time we played him. I mean, he came in with a broken thumb and beat us. It was crazy, right? And so I like him. I think he'll be fine. Again, this is the first year, right? That is this Campbell's first year over there?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so they're just trying to figure it out, themselves as a coaching staff and everything. And so I could see. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the fact that he's finally getting the targets. He's a volume guy, man. He was at SC, like just throw him 12 to 14. He's gonna come down with 10 or 11 of them with 100 yards, a couple touchdowns. That's just what he does. He's tough. He reminds me kind of my guy Golden Tate. I think Tate was maybe a little more elusive or stronger, I would say, in yards after catch, but Amon-Ra St. Brown's tough, and yeah. I mean, you guys are gonna like him. Jamal Williams is a guy that I thought that was a great free agent acquisition by you guys, and I was expecting him to see a ton of carries. So I don't know what really happened there, because every time he went in for Aaron Jones, he crushed it in Green Bay, and so I'm surprised that he hasn't gotten more volume in terms of touches.
So Williams has kind of run into another Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift, catching the ball out of the backfield and such, but it works better when it's a 1-2 punch between the two of them. And now they've got another young guy too, Craig Reynolds, who's looking good. I like the run game, especially because there's 3 first-rounders on that offensive line. Hal Vaitai, too, the right guard. It is a fun group of guys.
Well, see, what were we just talking about? That's how you build, is through those O&D lines. The game, and Campbell knows he was a tight end, right? The game's won in the trenches.
Exactly, and that's why I was so excited when the first-round pick was a left tackle, the second-round pick was a defensive tackle, and the third-round pick was a nose tackle. That is chef's kiss. That's how you start something in Detroit. But for starting something in USC, you've got Lincoln Riley now. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm excited about it. My only question is, the points, right? The points are going to come. I know he's going to put up 40 a game, but are we going to, give up 41 a game? Like, is that, because it's kind of been, the Achilles heel of his championship runs. He's been to 3 playoffs, I think, in the first 5 years. That's exciting. I don't know if the Big 12 is really that much better than the Pac. I know everybody likes to, rip on the Pac-12, right? But I don't know, but
it's the East Coast bias. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I've played all of them before, and honestly, the SEC is in a class of its own, and but I think this is a division he should be able to come in and have success early. I'm not saying playoffs first year, but the recruits he's landing already is incredible. There's going to be guys coming in the transfer portal, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just want to remind everybody we've hired a lot of offensive coaches since Pete left. We have not even sniffed the playoffs. We did have one guy named Ed Ogeron that was a defensive coach, and we let him go, and he won a title with LSU. So, defense wins championships. That's all you're going to hear from me.
Yes, it does. And even though Lincoln, that's not his scheme, hopefully he can recruit some of those young star defensive linemen because that's what you need in college football.
Oh, talent wins in college football. Like if you can recruit, you could just put some guys out there and they can win for you without being the greatest X's and O's coach. But I mean, you got your hands full if you don't get the talent, man.
Absolutely. And it'll be fun to see the rebirth of USC if it does happen, because when USC is good, college football is just so much better.
That's the truth. I appreciate you, man. So with what they paid him, we didn't pay that to win Pac-12 titles. We paid that to go to the playoffs.
Exactly. And hopefully we see USC back in the playoffs soon. And hopefully we see the Seahawks and the Lions. I don't want to say back in the playoffs for the Lions, but you know what I mean. Hopefully both 2022 for the Seahawks, maybe 2023 for the Lions. But for Sunday, what do you think happens in this game? What's your final score? Because I know our friends over at Bet Online thinks Seahawks by 7.
I think I had in my we do score predictions on Bleav in Seahawks. I think I was 27. Was it 20 or 21? So we didn't quite cover the spread, and you guys are a scrappy bunch, man. I'm expecting a fight. I mean, the way they took it to Arizona, that was impressive.
The Lions have been just a scrappy team all year. I think they're 10-6 against the spread at this point. They're not going down without a fight.
There you go.
So for me, I think as the Lions guy, I am going to have to take Detroit to eke out a victory over Seattle. I'm going to go with 23-21 on a last-second field goal from our young guy, Riley Patterson.
Oh, wow. He's taking a money line.
I have to. I mean, what do you want? It's called the Bleav in Lions podcast.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And before you head out, are there any pluggables that you want to plug?
Oh, I mean, my company, Zone and CBD, it's available online at zoneandcbd.com. It's got me ready to make a comeback. I'm thinking about, getting back out there. I think I could help them. I could help out the Seahawks this year. But yeah, it's, I don't know if you've ever had CBD products, but it's great for anti-inflammatory, neuroprotectant. So good for the mind, great for the body. And it's got me feeling young again, brother.
And it helps with the anxiety too, something I personally experience as well. So yes, I am a big fan, and I look forward to trying your product as well.
Right on, brother.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and check out Lofa Tatupu over on the Bleav in Seahawks podcast. And until next week, we will see you next time.